Hi guys, in this series, we'll understand what are the latest changes in Winter 25. As a part of this video, we'll focus on the Apex changes. So we'll play a simple game where we need to guess the output of the code that I have in the screen. I'll quickly switch to the Salesforce org so that way we would be able to look at the code, run the code and see the output. So here is the piece of code which basically goes under the method which says Apex setup method. Here is the code. Feel free to guess what would be the output. Option 1 will face an error. Option 2, this code would be successfully executed. I'll reveal the answer in 3 seconds. In 3, 2, 1. Before we guess this one, let's run this code and see what would be the output here. So what I have here is I have a class and I'm just calling this method by instantiating that class. So let's say I'll check this checkbox, open the log and click on execute. So if you see here, we are getting an error which says System.FinalException cannot modify a collection while it has been iterated. So this is the error that we are getting. Let's see what made this happen. What is this code doing is I have a set which basically contains strings Alice, Bob and Charlie. In the for loop, I am trying to remove the entry with name Alice from the set. So now Salesforce is throwing that a set cannot be modified while it has been iterated. This is the error that we are getting. Now you might be wondering, I have done this so many times, why am I getting error now? The answer lies in the API version of the Apex. In the latest release of Winter 25, Salesforce has put a error saying that you cannot iterate over a set and modify it at the same time. If I switch back to the previous version of this code and save this Apex class, you might be wondering, do I need to review all my code now to make these changes? The answer is no. Until unless your API version is on the lower version than 62, then you're in the good hands. Now the class has been saved. Let's see what would happen if I execute the same piece of code in API version 61. If I do that, I'm able to successfully complete the execution of the code and the debug log also says it is success. The difference between these two things is the API version which is causing an issue. Now you might be wondering, if I'm not able to iterate over the set and modify it at the same time, how can I do that? So I have another class called winter release class 2. It goes by the same logic where I'm iterating over the same set. Requirement remains same. What I'm trying to do here is trying to figure out how can we do that while we have to remove the subset of values from the set. So instead of directly iterating over this list and removing at the same time, I have created another set called hold names in the for loop. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to add the set values for which we need to remove the entry from that set. So this is in the hold names. Now at the end, I'm using a method called remove all and passing the new set, the old set, where it basically removes the Alice from that set. So what I'm trying to do here is at the end, I'm trying to print the size of the set so that way we would understand if it returns 3, then our logic has failed. If it is returning 2, then we are successfully able to achieve our requirement. In addition to that, what I'll do is I'll also print the set here so that way we would understand the content inside it. So I'm just appending the content in the system.debug so that way we can see that output. Now our code is being successfully saved. Let's quickly run this one. Instead of calling the first class, I'm just changing the name of my class here, which is the winter release 2. Remember that the API version is in 62, and I'll just execute this code. Now if I go back to the logs, it shows that it is successful. It is not throwing an error. That means we were able to successfully bypass the previous error that we were getting. Now if I look for the debug logs, I would be getting the size as 2. Instead of printing Alice, Bob and Charlie, we are printing only 2. So we were able to remove Alice using another set where we ask the system to hold the values that we want to remove, and finally use this method outside the for loop, so that way we would bypass the initial error that we are getting, which is cannot modify a collection while it is iterated. From now on, if your API version is on 62 or higher, feel free to make sure that you're not putting your set in a for loop and modifying it at the same time. For more such content, subscribe our YouTube channel SFTC Quest